Gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, I have a special guest. She's the 59th mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. She's the first African-American female mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. She's a former city administrator. She's the first city administrator to serve as mayor. She's from Columbia, South Carolina. She's our very own mayor, Mayor Viola Alexander Lyles, as Mayor Vi Lyles. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great. When people call me Viola, that makes me think that they're from South Carolina.
Oh, okay. I'm from Charleston now. So
you own it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Paul.
God, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, you know, I have a very simple lifestyle, and I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina.
Correct.
I have 5 brothers, and they run my father and grandfather's business, third generation African-American owned business. But having 5 brothers, you can imagine that I needed to move away to have a little bit of independence. And so I came to Charlotte to go to Queens College. It was a women's college then, and graduated, went to Chapel Hill for graduate school, and got a graduate degree in public administration. I was fortunate enough, after working in a few locations, to come back to Charlotte. When I came back to Charlotte, it was about 200,000 people, and today we're over 860,000 people.
Correct.
And I have always really thought about myself as someone that wanted to serve the public. I chose local government when I was working because that was the closest way to get to the people. When someone asks you to do something in local government, whether it's pick up their garbage or make sure that they have water, those are things that you can actually see happen. Yes. It's not all about policy and strategy. Sometimes it's just about service.
16 months you've been inside office. How would you rate yourself, your performance? I mean, I'll say you're doing a great job, but how would Mayor Lyles rate yourself?
You know, the way I rate myself is by going out into the community. And when I go to the grocery store and people stop me and they say, thank you for what you've done, or you're doing a great job, I take that to heart. It's what drives me. People say, what's the greatest thing about being mayor? And it's the people in our community. And it's really, really good. And I look at what other people say, and are we making progress on the things that make a difference to them?
And after a career with the City of Charlotte, serving as budget director and assistant city manager, how would that experience help you in your office?
Well, you know, a lot of people think that it would help me a lot,
Correct.
But that's not necessarily so. You know, things are moving so rapidly these days. When I was working with the city, there was a problem or an issue, and you'd look at, you know, what other cities were doing, and you just pick one of the things that was best, working best, and you try it. But today, think about how much smarter kids have to be in school. You have to define the problem. You have to get data, all that data analytics. You analyze the data. Then you have to go out into the community. Citizen engagement is something that we're working on and doing more of. Okay. You then have choices. And then you have to convince people that that's the right choice. And it's not just convincing yourself or the city council members, it's convincing the community that that's the right choice for Charlotte. So I really love numbers and I love budgeting and I can remember all of that. I love the idea of problem solving, but today it just requires a lot more. You have to engage with people to get things done.
I know you work a lot of hours as mayor, probably over 60 plus hours, and you're always around. How do you deal with that? I mean, I know you have to put in a lot of effort.
I do, but I have a great team. I have people that help me with the schedule.
Correct.
They help me know where to go. They try to keep me on time. For me, it's the energy that's required to be available and accessible. I believe when you talk to people, you have to really pay attention to them.
Correct.
It's not one of those things that I can look at my phone or be glancing over your shoulder. I want you to know that you are the most important thing that I'm thinking of right then in that moment. So after I do that I think people would be surprised to know that I'm busy Saturday and Sundays.
Correct.
Mondays, we have our council meeting. And the only time that I usually don't have an invitation to go someplace is on a Friday afternoon or Friday night. So that's when I kind of recoup or revive myself. Okay. Every now and again, I take a couple of days to relax and kind of recharge. And that's an important part of it, too. I need to realize that if it's just like in the airplane, you have to put on your mask first before Correct. You can help others. So I'm trying to learn to do that better. I'm not always successful at it.
I know you're really involved with the families of the city.
Yeah.
And I know that's because you're so involved with your family. Why is it so important? Why is that such a valuable family?
I tell people that I have about 20 first cousins.
Uh-oh.
And I grew up in a family during the segregation in the South. And that really makes a big difference because our parents tried to protect us from the world that was not always nice or was often more than that. I remember times my dad would work and wouldn't get paid for the work he did just because they didn't have to. And so that's when you know how family counts and what it means. All of my family shared every experience. When my mother found, something on sale, she'd call all of her sisters and they'd rush out and get it to save that money that made it possible for us to go to college or go to school. My dad worked and it was, it's one of those things. This is something that we need to learn more about doing as a people, as Black people. We actually worked with each other. So when my dad would have something in his business or one of my uncles would, they would pool their resources, their money, and work together. They built their brand as a family, not just as an individual. And so that's why family is so important to me today. I'm very fortunate to have a son who works here with Balfour Beatty. Okay. He has a lovely wife that grew up in that same environment. I have 2 beautiful grandbabies here. I have a daughter in Washington, D.C., who's the senior advisor on strategy and equity.
Okay.
I never even knew that was a job, but the idea of addressing equity because of all of discrimination and segregation, all of that, she's thinking about how to reverse those trends. Correct. And she's married to a wonderful man that works primarily in the defense industry, and she has a little 2-year-old daughter. Okay. So I've got 3 grandbabies, and if that's not enough to make sure that you want to make the world a better place, then you're missing this heart part.
Oh, God. So how did they feel about you running for mayor and you being the mayor of Charlotte?
I will tell you, I think my kids would, my son Kwame and my daughter Aisha and their spouses would do anything. They've encouraged me. My son is the young man that you saw putting out signs on the day before the election in the middle of a thunderstorm. My daughter still helps me with social media and helps me communicate who I am. I believe that your children understand best your motivations and they know your heart.
Correct.
And so they're very, very supportive of me. And I hope one day that I will be able to give them all of the respect that they're due for that. Already they've got all my love, but I want them to know how much I respect them as adults.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be our very own from Charlotte, North Carolina, Miss Jennifer Roberts. She's running for mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. How you doing there, Miss Roberts?
I'm I'm doing great. I hope you are as well.
I'm doing outstanding. Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm so glad to be here.
Mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. What was the deciding factor in you running for the mayor position?
Well, you know, Paul, I grew up in Charlotte, and my husband and I are raising our children here in Charlotte, and we love the city. We want to see it realize its greatest potential. And, you know, about a year ago, when the need arose for an interim mayor, I heard from a lot of people in the community. I got phone calls, I got emails. People reached out to me and said, will you please consider running for this office? And I think that people were searching for transparency. They were searching for a community spirit, for someone who could collaborate, bring people together, focusing on teamwork and transparency. And when I looked at the community and all our potential, and I thought about the skill set that I could bring to the mayor's office, and I talked to a lot of people and my family, of course, I decided that this is a critical time for our city, and I really believe I could move the city forward.
How does your background as a former member of Mecklenburg County Commissioners, Board of County Commissioners, increase your expertise in the city?
Well, you know, I had the honor of serving the county
Correct.
for 8 years, and 5 of those I was the chairperson. And what that meant is that I was the spokesperson for not just Charlotte, but for all of Mecklenburg County, which includes 6 towns and the city of Charlotte. And I represented this county on a state and national level, serving on state and national boards. So I have had the opportunity to promote this region, our county and our city,
Yes, ma'am.
before. I also have the perspective from a county commission standpoint of the connection between human services and infrastructure. And people always get confused about which things the city does and which things the county does. And the easy way to remember it is that the county is the people part of government and the city works on our infrastructure. Those two things are intertwined. And so you can't talk about a healthy community without talking about the physical community, sidewalks and greenways and things that people can use to stay healthy. Those are things that we construct. Those are infrastructure. But it has an impact on human services. And there's so many cases where I see that. And as a county commissioner, what you see is the connection between these things. You can't talk about thriving neighborhoods without talking about good schools in those neighborhoods. You can't talk about bringing jobs without also talking about a healthy place to live and a place where people want to live because of the assets that we have. And so every time that we look at a city service, we should also be mindful of the human services from the county side that are impacted. What I'd like to see is even better collaboration with the city and the county. And I think that having been a county commissioner, that gives me a unique perspective and opportunity to say, when we're looking at the city, let's make sure the county is included as well. Now, they're doing that pretty well right now, but everything can be better, and that perspective would help make that an even tighter relationship.
I know as a member of the board, you did an outstanding job, and I just want to applaud you for all the work that you did for the community.
Well, thanks, Paul. You know, one thing I found, whenever we had a challenge at the county level, when we reached out into the community,
Yes, ma'am.
when we brought citizens to the table and we asked regular folk to have input and to help us get through a difficult time, we got better results. We have tremendous energy, innovation, and concern and care in our community, compassion.
Cool.
We were able to unlock that through several citizen processes. We did a master plan for Park and Recreation, where we went out into the community and said, what is the thing you love the most about your park system? And so now we have a master plan where we're going to actually try to meet those needs and goals of the people who live here. You know, what a great idea. When we had a library challenge with our budget, we got so many community volunteers that we were able to keep the libraries open longer, almost doubling the number of hours that we thought we could keep it open. That was totally through volunteers and community input and community contribution. that's what makes me excited about serving again, is really accelerating that connection, that inclusion of the citizen's voice, and reaching into every corner of our city to do that, because we have a very diverse city. We have diverse neighborhoods, we have diverse people, we have different ethnic backgrounds, different languages spoken, and all of those things contribute to making us a great city.
Explain the importance of the international community and your expertise in this area.
Well, my expertise is pretty unique. I actually served our country as a diplomat.
Correct.
And I worked in the Foreign Service for 2 tours, almost 4 years. That expertise keeps me connected to the international community. I have friends still in the Foreign Service. I'm in touch with them in Washington as well. It also helps me understand the importance of things like honorary consuls. Charlotte has many honorary consuls. They help connect us to the specific country to which they are assigned. And those connections are not just import-export, job growth and job creation, but they're also personal connections. So we have educational exchange programs with a number of cities all over the world. So our students are learning Chinese and German and French and Spanish, not just here, but through exchanges with other countries. Correct. That is all through those connections on a diplomatic level, on a personal level, on an educational level. So we also can work with our community here, which is increasingly diverse. About 18% of our population were born in a foreign country.
Oh, okay.
Yes, which is really interesting. And those connections are not just great for education and cultural awareness and all the great things that come with that, but they're also great for growing business. Mm-hmm. We know that companies that export end up paying better, end up growing faster, end up being more successful, because when you export, your markets are hugely increased as opposed to just selling to this region in North Carolina. And even small companies can export. So I look forward to building on that international expertise, on building on the vibrant communities that we have here now, and helping them be even more successful, connecting with our residents and connecting with the rest of the world. We're competing not just with Columbia, South Carolina,
Correct.
but with Colombia, South America, the country.
That's true.
We're also competing with Singapore and so many other places, not just right here in the United States.
Flowers. She's the Chief Executive Officer of Charlotte Area Transit System. Greetings, Ms. Flowers. How are you doing this evening?
Thank you, Paul, for having me on the show again.
It's an honor to have you come on the show, ma'am. It's a blessing. Thank you, ma'am. CATS just celebrated its 5-year anniversary of the Lynx Blue Line. How did you commemorate the occasion?
Well, we did a variety of things this week. We had a stakeholder breakfast to thank the community for their support. We had contests using social media to have riders tell about their experience, and we selected stories. We also selected a rider, number 24,440,386. And that person received a prize of an annual pass and some other CATS memorabilia. And we also had an employee event to basically celebrate what we've been doing. So we included, our riders, our employees, and everyone in the community that has supported us to get to where we are today.
That's awesome. How would you describe the success of the first ever Lynx light rail system?
Well, I think that what you have to look at is how the light rail has transformed Charlotte. And in terms of the economic development, offering more mobility options, and it's just the first part of our plan to build a system here that'll support the growth and the economic vitality here in Charlotte.
What has been some of the challenges that you faced over the last 5 years?
Funding. Just the economic downturn, the impact that it's had on us, and our ability to ensure that we can continue to support the services and the mobility needs for the community. And so it's been a challenge for us to balance the revenues against the expenses. And so we've taken a lot of steps to ensure that we can continue to provide those services and be as efficient and effective as possible with our costs.
And you're doing a great job. Now the whole CATS, you're doing an awesome job for the city of Charlotte. And I applaud you and the CATS staff for all that you do. Because a lot of people really depend on the system.
Well, I'd like to thank the entire, CATS team, but it's also the community, the support that the community has provided, and then everyone here is an investor in the system by the virtue of, their purchases and the sales tax that come to us. And so we have to basically, be inclusive of the entire community when we talk about the gratitude for what we've been able to achieve.
What's in store for the rail plans in Charlotte for the next 5 years?
Well, there are two major projects that are coming up. First, the demonstration line streetcar, that's 1.5 miles. That's going to integrate into the light rail line. And so that should be coming up in spring of 2015 opening. And then we're also going to be constructing the extension of the light rail line. And we hope to have that open by March of 2017. So those are the two big things that are coming up.
CATS received a federal grant in December 2011 for the Blue Line that is up and running. What's being done with the grants?
Well, that grant was to extend the platforms on the existing light rail. We built the platforms to only have the capacity for 2 cars, but we've seen with the ridership and a lot of special events in the uptown area, the need for expansion of the platforms to accommodate 3 cars on the train. And so we received that grant last year. So we're now in the process of the planning and design for the expansion of the platforms and expansion of our power needs to support the additional trains. And so we're going to be trying to parallel the construction of the extension of the platforms at the same time as we are doing the construction of the extension of the light rail. So you'll see a lot of activity out on the line, and the key objective for us is to ensure that we continue to offer a high quality of service for the existing line and not impact the riders of our existing alignment.
How's the economy affected Charlotte area transit system?
It's since 2008, we've had a significant impact to the sales tax revenues, and what it has done is basically have us go back and relook the long-term plan and basically adjust the timeline on projects that we can deliver. So we've had to make an adjustment on the light rail extension that we just received a full funding grant agreement from the feds and the state on their support. But we've had to scale back that project. We had to scale back 2 stations off of the alignment to get it to fit into our financial plan. We're having to look at innovative financing techniques for the commuter rail line that we're building or proposing to build, going out to Iredell County, going to the north of Mecklenburg County. And it's also basically tempered our ability to do any other capital projects at this time. We're continuing to focus on keeping the same level of services here on the bus system and ensure that we can add amenities for the bus system and continue to have a viable and robust bus system also.
Have you seen any improvement in the 0.5-cent sales tax this year?
We've actually seen some rebound in the sales taxes, but then other things have, not been probably as robust as we would like. State has made some reductions in their assistance, operating assistance, and the federal government with the continuing resolutions and the Specter of lower appropriations and the possibility of sequestration has an impact on all of us. So.
Okay, I've noticed throughout the city we've seen the buses with advertisement on them, and what's the value of the advertisement as far as what they really?
Well, last year we had probably close to $600,000 that we earned on the ads from the buses and the light rail trains, and this year we doubled our budget, and so we're trying to be find ways that we can augment our operating shortfall that we've had from the sales taxes. And so I would say that the advertising has been pretty successful for us, and we're continuing to look for ways that we can find ancillary revenues and continue to support our operations and ensure that we can keep the level of service out there for our customers.
It's like a traveling billboard. Who developed that concept? I mean, because that was a brilliant idea.
Well, actually, it's pretty standard in the industry now to have advertising on your vehicles and on the light rail trains. And there had been a policy decision in the past to not do it here in Charlotte. And at this point, when we looked at, what are potential revenues, we had to look at options that we could find to ensure that we had some way of having additional income come in. And so we went back out and explored the market. Charlotte is about the number 24 market in the nation for advertising, so it was an opportunity for us to capitalize on a way to improve our financial situation. And so we're also exploring other things in the future that are around advertising. So this is the beginning for us, and we hope that we see additional ways to increase our advertising revenues in the future.
Going into the new year, what are your priorities or goals?
Well, number one is to come up with a balanced budget. Number two is to come up with a financing plan for our light rail line. Even though we have funding commitments from the state and from the federal government, it's just like anybody going out to buy a house. You basically have to come up with mortgage so that you can pay for the construction to get you there. And so so that's going to be very key to us, is to come up with the financing plan and get that approved by the local government commission. And ensuring that we can sustain quality services for all of the patrons here, and that we continue to demonstrate that we have credibility with the community and we provide a good level of service for them.
You're providing outstanding service, ma'am. As far as myself, I'm stating that, a lot of people depend on the transit system as far as getting to employment, just getting around the city, and it goes around the whole Mecklenburg County. I think a lot of people appreciate the things that CAT does.